Notre Dame has won 30 straight games against ACC teams, but another tough road test ahead against undefeated Louisville. Tom Loy and Michael McCammon here to preview the game. It's the first meeting between these schools as ranked teams. The Cards have won 7 straight at home, but the Irish, the favorite here by little less than a touchdown. We'll talk about Sam Hartman first, coming off that gutsy performance against Duke last weekend. But last year when he was with Wake Forest against Louisville, he had some struggles in that game, accounting for 6 turnovers, quite a few sacks, and was benched in the fourth quarter. So Tom, what do you think will be different in this rematch for him?
Yeah, especially coming off arguably his worst performance so far at Notre Dame, other than that long 4th and 16 run. You don't want to see that against Louisville. You don't want a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers. They won't win the game. So all in all, you're seeing Sam Hartman on a different team against a different team at Louisville. New head coach, different team, different system. And he's got a ton of talent around him this year at Notre Dame. So that's what I think is going to be the difference maker. He's got a great rushing attack led by Audric Estime, Jeremiah Love, and a couple of others. Got a terrific offensive line and arguably the best offensive lineman in all of college football in Joe Alt. And you got a lot of playmakers around him. I'm looking at tight end Mitchell Evans, who had a great game against Duke. So that's going to be a key. Also for Louisville, they lost a lot of talented players on defense. They lost Yaya Diaby, who had a sack against Sam Hartman last year when he was playing for Wake. You also had Yasser Abdullah, who had a sack. And then Kaytrell Clark also had an interception, if I remember correctly. So a lot of those guys are no longer there. A lot of the guys that might be in Sam Hartman's head. But all in all, different team, different quarterback, different system. I think it's going to work out for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. It's a totally different year. Louisville certainly had some success against Sam Hartman while he was at Wake Forest, going 2-1 against him, but while he was the quarterback for the Demon Deacons. And last year, certainly a game that he wants to forget, as you mentioned, 6 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles, was sacked 8 times. But yeah, it's a totally different ball game this year. But Jeff Brahman, talking to him, Louisville head coach Jeff Brahman, talking to him, described him as obviously clearly experienced, intelligent, smart, and those are the factors that Louisville really needs to watch out for as they're trying to contain Sam Hartman, a guy that can beat you with his arm and beat you with his legs. And in talking about Sam Hartman, Braum brought up, hey, in the past they've used pressure to get into his head, and I think that's kind of leading into what Jeff Brahm's plan of attack is, and defensive coaches for Louisville as they face Notre Dame on Saturday. Certainly a key to the game will be limiting his ability to impact on the running game, keep him in the pocket, and then try to get into him through pressure and stuff like that. So certainly a different year, and as Tom pointed out, many of the guys that gave him a headache are gone, but there are a number of guys back. Ashton Gelati on the edge, leads Louisville with sacks, a key guy for the Louisville defense, and if he makes a consistent presence in the backfield, that's certainly good for the Cardinals. But Sam Hartman is certainly a key for the Louisville defense this week.
Yeah, Hartman's 14 pass touchdowns this season, the most in the FBS without an interception. Surely he'd like to keep it that way. Now, Louisville was picked to finish 8th in the ACC in the preseason poll. They're now 5-0 for the first time since 2013, atop the conference standings. So, Michael, why have things clicked so well in the first year of the Jeff Brohm era?
Well, part of it is they were kind of handed a nice, favorable schedule to start. But certainly when you get through 5 games and you've won all 5, you're doing things right. It certainly hasn't been perfect. They've had their struggles both offensively. They've had their struggles defensively. But I think what really helped them get going in the Jeff Brohm era is they attacked the transfer portal significantly, brought in 25 guys. And if you look down the list of the guys that they brought in through the transfer portal, many of them are making significant impacts, starting obviously with quarterback Jack Plummer. You've got his top receiver in Jamari Thrash, and you've got also additional receivers in Kevin Coleman, Jimmy Callaway. And then you look defensively, you've got a guy like Cameron Kelly, a former North Carolina player who transferred to Louisville and stepping in because of a starting safety injured. And since then, he's become defensive player of the week, defensive back for the ACC twice since he's moved into the starting rotation. So their ability to go and get key elements, for multiple spots on both sides of the field through the portal has certainly helped bolster this Louisville roster and has been a big factor in why they've started 5-0.
Yeah, this is a really strong team. I'm pretty excited about this matchup for Louisville and Notre Dame. Louisville's got a lot of firepower, and like you said, there's guys on this team that maybe not a lot of Notre Dame fans, casual Notre Dame fans, are going to know. So it's going to be very exciting to see how this plays out. But I know that if Louisville wants to lean on their passing attack, then Howard Cross, the defensive lineman, is going to be licking his chops and doing his best to get after the quarterback. He's coming off his best game potentially in a Notre Dame career. which is pretty nice to see. And then obviously, if they're going to try to throw the ball all around the field, then Notre Dame's pretty confident in their secondary. You know, with Ben Morrison back there, a freshman All-American, coming off a great season, and he's kind of doing the same things, having a great year this year. And then obviously you got Cam Hart right next to him on the other side of the cornerback spot. So big things coming this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun and some really, really good matchups.
So Notre Dame definitely going through some type of gauntlet right now, facing 3 straight ranked opponents in the same season for the first time in 2 decades. Now that obviously includes Ohio State and Duke, both of those games coming down to the final seconds, and now Louisville. So Tom, how are the Irish mentally preparing for another road test?
Yeah, and then they got another undefeated matchup with USC the following week. So I mean, they can't look ahead. That's what they can do, and that's really what the focus is on at this point. It's just focusing on today, winning the day. Marcus Freeman talks about it every day, even on Monday. He was like, our focus today is winning Monday, and not worrying about Saturday. So this team is locked in. You know, you talk to people around the program, and especially after Duke, they were fired up. It felt different. I know obviously they were coming off a tough loss to Ohio State, but you look back to when they lost to Marshall and they lost to Stanford, games that they should have won and should have closed and finished, and they didn't do that. But you know what? They did it last weekend, and everybody realizes, like, this is how you finish. This is how you win a game. 11-1 is still on the table. Let's forget about Ohio State, learn from it, and let's forget about the struggles against Duke. So I really expect this to be a very different team this weekend against Louisville, and it all starts at the top with Marcus Freeman. You know, he's talked about it after the game. Saturday, you kind of saw a different vibe, a different energy from him. He admitted his essentially a wrong decision of wanting them to kneel on the ball and set up for a field goal, and he realized maybe we got some dudes like Audric Estime who could take this thing over. So it just had a different vibe, and I really think this is going to be a very big building block and a step forward for this Notre Dame team.
Yeah, when you look at Notre Dame, obviously, as you go down their schedule, which was just up on the screen, I mean, it's a boom, 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 boom every week. And it does bring up the questions, and I've asked it myself, is Notre Dame going to have a letdown? And when you're a program like Notre Dame who does this year after year after year, I can't imagine much of a letdown. They're used to the prime time. They're used to the spotlight, being on national television, playing at night. And so this is kind of the environment they're used to, while Louisville, on the other side, looks forward to these type of opportunities. They've had them in the past. They've done well in them, and they've struggled in the past as well. And with Jeff Brom as a head coach, I think one thing that's fueling the potential of a potential upset within the fan base and maybe within the team is, Jeff Brom's past, coaching against some highly rated teams. Obviously, we recall what he did against Ohio State a couple years ago while he was at Purdue. So certainly that past has given Louisville fans some reason for excitement. You've got a spread that's under a touchdown, and Louisville, I think, has a chance to be competitive in this game. Obviously, it needs to feed off the energy of the sold-out crowd at L&N Stadium, and if they're able to do that, I think we're looking at a game that could go into the fourth quarter again, and it'd be another thriller.
All right, I need a player who could be the difference maker in the game, an X factor. So, Michael, who are you looking at?
There's quite a few, and a lot of people obviously know Jamari Thrash, the top wide receiver, Jawar Jordan, who's one of the top running backs in the country. But one of the receivers to keep an eye out is Kevin Coleman. He's a transfer from Jackson State, a former top 100 guy, a 4-star guy that went to Jackson State with Deion Sanders, transferred to Louisville last year. And as he's kind of gaining a little bit more experience with each game, he's becoming a little bit more impactful as well. He's great in the short routes. He's great, going deep and getting a great deep ball from Jack Plummer. And he's also a threat in the punt game. Had a nice return for 26 yards against NC State to really show his danger in the punt game there. So Kevin Coleman's a guy that can get it done both in the passing game, pulling the passes in from Jack Plummer, as well as in the return game. So a guy to keep an eye on is that one who could have an impact in how this game is played out.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, it's obviously easy to say Sam Hartman and Audric Estime, but it's all about the passing game, like you talked about. I'm going to go with a receiver, actually two, Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse. Getting those guys back is going to be massive for Jared Parker, the offensive coordinator, receivers coach Chancey Stuckey, and the overall passing attack. I mean, not having those guys last week, Notre Dame really had Chris Tyree, Rico Flores, Tobias Merriweather. That's it. There was, these guys played the entire game, and it was, obviously they leaned heavily at tight end and Mitchell Evans and Holden Stays, but getting Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse back is going to be massive. It really is. Sam Hartman's going to be a lot more comfortable. He's got a lot more weapons at his disposal. And I think you're going to see a much more polished, and a high level performance from the receiver group. Now that they can get a blow every couple snaps, so it'll be a lot of fun. But actually, one more guy I want to mention just to keep an eye on is the return of Eli Raridan. He was a highly regarded tight end coming out of high school, and he's been hurt essentially since day one at Notre Dame. So keep an eye on him. He's back this weekend.
All right, Tom Loy and Michael McCammon, thanks so much for joining us with your insight. And for more game coverage, remember to check out Irish Illustrated and Cardinal Authority. They're keeping you up to date on Notre Dame and Louisville football and recruiting news all season long.